The truth sometimes sounds unbelievable. Welcome to Unbelievable True Tales. Today we talk about two unbelievable true tales where people disappeared, never to be seen again. This family just vanished. In 1964, a family from Carletonville, South Africa, returned home after a relaxing holiday in Amanzimtoti, a lovely beach town in KwaZulu-Natal. The Oosthuizen family was dreading returning home because their current home was dilapidated and neglected. The house was basically falling apart due to lack of maintenance. The house was in such bad condition that it was not safe to live there anymore. It was the responsibility of the Blyvooruitsig gold mine, where the father of the family, 36-year-old Johannes Oosthuizen, worked to do maintenance on the houses in the mining town. His wife Hester had a very bad feeling about returning home. She lived in fear that something horrible might happen once they returned. She pleaded with her husband to stay a few more days in Amanzimtoti. Johannes, being the only breadwinner of the family, unfortunately could not take more time off work as he had important projects to finish. So Johannes, Hester, and their children, son Johannes Jr., age 8, and daughters Jacoba, age 12, and Marianne, age 6, all reluctantly returned home to the neglected mining house. Upon their return to the house in the West End suburb of the Blyvooruitsig gold mine, friends and family welcomed them home. The children were happy to see their friends again, and the sounds of children's laughter filled the air. Hester, however, was not feeling joyful at all. Fearful and panic-stricken, she could not hide the fact that she had a bad feeling about living in the current house. All she could talk about was her fear that something bad is going to happen. Her friends and family assured her that she had nothing to worry about. The house will be fixed, and she will live a happy life there with her husband and children. That evening, as their friends and family went home, Hester made dinner and the family sat around the dinner table, excited to talk about their endeavors for the day. It was still school holidays, so there was no rush to get to bed early. After dinner, Johannes played with Johannes Jr., Jacoba and Marianne, while Hester and the domestic worker cleaned up the kitchen. Hester and Johannes then put the kids to sleep and retreated to their bedroom for the evening. Little did they know that this would be the last time they saw each other alive. During the early morning hours of the 3rd of August 1964, the Oosthuizen's neighbor, Mr. Brits, was feeling extremely restless and could not sleep. After rolling around for a while, he got up to get some medicine to help him sleep. While he was in the kitchen getting the medicine, he heard a strange noise coming from the Oosthuizen's house. He later described it as sounding like a wagon on a rocky road. He looked out the window to see what was going on, but everything seemed to be okay. Although the noise intrigued him, he quickly got his medicine so that he could get some sleep before working the next day. As he was stepping out of the kitchen, he heard the noise again. This time, it was overwhelmingly loud, and it was accompanied by the bone-chilling screams of Hester, whose most horrific nightmare was coming true. As Mr. Brits looked out the window, the Oosthuizen's house disappeared before his very eyes. By this time, the whole neighborhood was awake and in a state of panic. Mr. Brits ran to get his own family to safety, as their house also started to crack and fall apart. They managed to escape just in time to see parts of their house disappear into nowhere. Some of the neighbors had to escape through windows as the foundations of their houses shook and their structures fell apart. Cars disappeared and buildings collapsed and vanished. There was no time to save possessions or anything valuable. The neighborhood of West Dean was being eaten alive by Mother Earth, and there was nothing anybody could do about it. Rescue workers quickly arrived at the scene, but it was clear that nothing could be done for the Oosthuizen family and their domestic worker. They were buried alive in a 150-meter long and 20-meter deep hole. It appeared that a giant sinkhole had formed due to mining activity in the regions. Mines would pump out underground water as they expanded their operations. As the underwater river was rapidly emptying, a giant air bubble formed, which collapsed and buried the Oosthuizen family and their domestic worker alive. Sadly, not much information is available about the domestic worker that perished. Her name is not mentioned in this story as it is sadly unknown. Later, a monument was erected in honor of the Oosthuizen family. At the bottom of the plaque, the inscription reads, "God himself has laid them to rest." This next story contains graphic content, so viewer discretion is advised. The Missing Girls, the Gert van Rooyen story. On the 11th of January 1990, 16-year-old Joan Boyson of Pretoria, South Africa, found herself handcuffed in the cupboard of a stranger's house. Her heart was racing as she tried to figure out how she can escape from the monster who was holding her captive. Prior to being locked in the cupboard, she was sexually assaulted and pumped full of drugs. Despite her horrific ordeal, she knew that she had to do something to escape her captors and get help. Amazingly, she managed to escape this house of horrors and alerted the police, who immediately sprang into action. Between 1988 and 1990, 6 girls between the ages of 11 and 14 mysteriously disappeared in South Africa. A wave of fear grabbed hold of the country as the media reported on the events. On the 1st of August 1988, 14-year-old Tracy Lee Scott Crossley disappeared. She was seen by witnesses climbing into a VW Beetle outside of a shopping mall. A nationwide police search and poster campaign were launched, but she was never found. On the 22nd of December 1988, 12-year-old Fiona Harvey of Pietermaritzburg also disappeared. A white Ford Bantam pickup truck used in her abduction, with an advertisement of a contracting business on it, would later link the owner to this crime. On the 7th of June 1989, 12-year-old Joan Horn of Pretoria disappeared. In July of that same year, 16-year-old Jana Delport of Durban disappeared after being abducted in a shopping mall by a blonde woman. She was later found wandering around, distressed but fortunately unharmed. On the 22nd of September 1989, 11-year-old Odette Boucher and 12-year-old Annemarie Wapenaar, both of Kempton Park, disappeared. Kobie Wapenaar, Annemarie's mother, received a letter from her daughter a few days later, claiming that she and Odette had run away to Durban. A similar letter from Odette also arrived a few days later. It is suspected the letters was written under duress. On the 3rd of November 1989, 13-year-old Yolanda Wessels, the niece of one of the abductors, disappeared. After Joan Boyson escaped from the House of Horrors in 1990, police set up surveillance on the house, and 2 days later they spotted the man identified by Joan as the one who abducted and sexually assaulted her. A car chase ensued, and as police were catching up with the suspect, he killed his partner and then committed suicide. The man was identified as Gert van Rooyen, a known pedophile, and his partner was identified as Joey Haarhoff. It seemed that Joey might have been the one who lured the girls to the house where Van Rooyen allegedly did horrible things to them. All the disappearances, except the case of Tracy Lee Scott Crossley, were linked by witness statements or forensic evidence to Van Rooyen and Haarhoff following their deaths. After his suicide, the police searched Van Rooyen's house and found Odette Boucher's home address and phone number written on a piece of paper and hidden under a carpet. They also found her class captain's badge and yellow bag. Annemarie Wapenaar's address and home keys were also found. On a nearby dump, police found clothing and sleeping pills which might have been used by Van Rooyen to drug his victims. The envelopes and paper Udette and Annemarie used to write letters to their parents were also found in his house. Although the police searched every inch of Van Rooyen's house and garden, the missing girls were never found. Van Rooyen and Haarhoff took the secrets of what happened to the missing girls with them to the grave. There are some evidence that the girls might have been alive after Van Rooyen and Haarhoff's death. In June 1990, a customer at the Fabric Library in Midrand found a penciled note written in a childish hand on a slip. It read, "I am Annemarie. My friend and I are with our kidnappers. My friend has tried to phone but was cut off." Interviewed by the Sunday Star in April 1993, when news of the letter came to light, former Fabric Library personal assistant Deborah Sloan said, "What riveted me was a little girl who came into the Fabric Library shortly before the note was discovered. This girl of about 12 had short black hair and appeared very scared. I can still see her sitting there and wondered at the time why she was looking so scared." Sadly, to this day, none of Van Rooyen's victims were ever found, despite extensive police searches of his business premises and house, which was dubbed the House of Horrors. That is the end of today's stories. Join us again for more unbelievable true stories. Thank you for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to our channel. We upload once